The new brawler Meg is really not all that hard to play with, but the amount of people I've seen just wasting their mechas and getting absolutely no value out of it is insane. So we gotta fix that. This will be a complete Meg guide. Every aspect of her kit, you're gonna know how to use it better. And you're gonna learn how to make some mega good plays with Meg. Omega lol. Megalovania. The possibilities are endless. I could keep going on like this forever. So basically all the time when you're not in your mecha, you want to stay as far away as possible from your opponents, right? Because you only have like 3,000 health. And so it's going to be really easy for them to kill you. So you want to make sure that you're keeping them at max distance, because it doesn't matter how far away you are from them, you're still going to do the same amount of damage and you're still going to charge your super the same amount. But if you are 5.25 tiles or closer to anyone, you can actually auto aim on them and guarantee a shot on average. If they have a really fast movement speed for some reason, then you'll have to be a bit closer to them to actually hit them with auto aim. But usually you only want to get that close to opponents if they're really short range and you can outrange them, because otherwise getting within 5 tiles of your opponents usually will also let them be able to hit you with their auto aim. And since they probably do a lot more damage than you, you're gonna die. So generally speaking, just keep them at the end of your range. The most important thing about playing Meg is when you're jumping into her mecha and using that super. A lot of the times using your super right when you get it is not that good, because if you're not gonna immediately get value out of it, like the extra health or the damage that you're gonna get, then you're just sort of wasting away the health on the mecha, and there's no point to it. So you only want to use it if you're going to immediately need that extra health or the extra damage to take down your opponents. Because Meg without her mecha actually has some advantages. She has a higher movement speed, so it's easier to escape from situations and easier to get into situations, as well as just to dodge shots in general. And also the time it takes to actually get into the mecha is like a full second. So if you need to be attacking and keeping your opponents away in that second, then using the mecha probably isn't a good idea. So you want to wait to use the mecha until you're right about to go into a fight and you're gonna need that health and you're gonna need that damage. Like right when you respawn is not a good time to use it, because you still have to run all the way to the other side of the field, and you want to do that with your faster movement speed, which is Meg when she doesn't have her mecha. Now, as some of my randoms have learned the hard way, you also don't want to wait until the absolute last second to use your mecha, because you're probably going to die right before you use it, and if you die while you're using it, then you lose your super and you don't get the mecha form when you respawn. So it's very, very bad if that happens. So you want to ensure that doesn't happen. So you want to do it early enough that that doesn't happen, but you also want to do it late enough that you're not going to be moving around and wasting all the health away from your mecha. And I would say definitely prioritize being safe when using the super and transforming into your mecha over using it as late as possible. Once you get comfortable with how close you can be to your enemies and still use your super safely without dying, you want to practice making that timing closer and closer, so that way you can just save as much time as possible and get the most value and time out of using your mecha. And once you do activate your mecha, you're going to be a much bigger target, and the enemies are probably going to focus a lot of damage on you since you're very threatening. So a lot of times you want to stay behind walls, and if possible, you can just attack people from behind the walls by essentially just aiming your attack straight at the wall, and one of the sides of your attack can actually go around the wall because the attack is just that wide. So wall peeking like this is going to let you stay safe pretty easily, and there's not really too much your opponents can do about it except just break the walls. And even though you're essentially halving your damage because half of your bullets are just going straight into the wall, a lot of times you're not going to hit many bullets from your shots anyway, so it really doesn't decrease your damage by all that much. Now with the main attack, when you're in the mecha, you don't really ever want to auto aim unless you're really close to someone and you just want to get the max possible damage on them, or you're auto aiming on some stationary target like a box or Nita's bear or the Ike turret, something like that. But you really want to try to get the center of your attack to just line up with your opponent, so that way both sides of your attack hit them. But if you just auto aim, it's a lot more likely that only one of the sides of the attack is going to hit, and that's going to reduce your damage by a little. And most of the time, if you're aiming to hit them right in the center and you miss, you're still just going to hit them with one of the sides of your attack. So you don't really lose anything by trying to manually aim all your attacks. And then the other thing you have to pay attention to when you're actually in your super is the second super that you get. That's basically just a buffed BB attack, longer range, higher damage. It's really, really good. And I explained all about that in this video, why it's really important to actually take advantage of the super. And if you're spending a whole match in your mecha at long range, you're never going to take advantage of the super, and you're not really going to be able to win very easily by doing that. You really need to take advantage of the super, otherwise there are a lot of brawlers that are just better than Meg. So try to push your opponents back, get close to them without letting them hit you by utilizing the walls, and hopefully you can get a couple swipes in over the course of the match. It's time for an advertisement. You can now go to glitchenergy.com and use the code VDOP for 20% off of your next order. It's literally just G Fuel but better. So if you already drink G Fuel, I highly recommend you go at least try it out using the code VGOP for 20% off. Now let's talk about Meg's Gadget, because this is also another one that I see a lot of people using kind of incorrectly a lot of the time, and I don't really know why. So when you're using the Gadget, it doesn't really matter when you use it, because the total amount of health you get is going to be the same whether you use it when you're close to full health in the mecha or you're close to dying or right in the middle. Having low health or high health doesn't change how much damage you're dealing, so it literally just doesn't matter when you use the Gadget as long as you're getting the full healing out of it. So you don't want to use it right away when you transform into the mecha. Even if you think you're about to go into battle, if like even one of those ticks of healing doesn't get the full amount of healing off, then you're kind of just wasting your Gadget, because there's usually so much time when you're at like half health or between 0 health and half health. And if you use your Gadget, then you're basically guaranteed to get the full healing out of it unless you die very, very quickly. But if you play conservatively, that doesn't really happen too often. But you want to use your Gadget when you're at those lower health ranges, because then you can guarantee that you're going to be able to refill all of your health. It doesn't even need to be that low, because you gain 2250 health from your Gadget. So as long as you're 2250 below max health, which would be 4750 health, then you can use your Gadget and it's perfectly fine. You're guaranteed to get all the health remaining as long as you don't die before the Gadget finishes healing you. Just wanted to clear that up so we don't have any more Gadgets wasted out here. Now in terms of star powers, Force Field is going to be so much better. Like a 30-second shield is just so good. There are so many times I have just barely not died after getting knocked out of my mecha, and that's all because of the shield. If I didn't have the shield, I would have definitely died in a lot of situations. And also, when you break out of your mecha and you're not completely at full health, if you don't have a shield, there are a lot of brawlers that can just one-shot you or will two-shot you very easily. And with the shield, it fixes a lot of those interactions. So a lot of brawlers are going to find it harder to kill you after you immediately get out of your mecha. And that's great, because a lot of times you fall out of your mecha in a really inconvenient spot. And so being able to run away and tanking a couple of shots while your enemies are attacking at you from behind is very, very good to have. So the first star power provides a lot of value. Now, as for the second star power, self-destruction, it's somewhat good in Brawl Ball in the situations where you're like running up towards an opponent's goal in the mecha and your mecha is just about to die, and then when it explodes, it pushes all the opponents back, so basically leaves you a free goal. That's kind of useful in that situation, but it's a very particular situation in a singular mode, and even when that happens, you also get pushed back when your mecha explodes, so you don't even have that much time to react to it. So the time when it is somewhat useful is still really hard to get value out of. So overall, I would just say use Force Field in every situation, because it's going to provide consistent value every mode in basically every situation. Now I want to talk about tips and tricks for every single game mode. So in Gem Grab, basically the only strategy is just to don't be the gem carrier, because it's very easy to die when you're not in your mecha form. I guess you can pick up a couple gems if it's to start the countdown when you're in your mecha form, but otherwise, if at all possible, leave it to your teammates, because it's very easy to die when playing Meg. You're going to want to play a bit aggressive by getting close to your opponents when you're in the mecha and using that second super, so you just don't want to be holding gems, because when you die, you don't want your opponents to get that much value out of it. Now in Brawl Ball, the main thing I would recommend is that if you're 90% sure that your opponents are about to score on you, or you're about to score on your opponents, and you have your mecha saved up, just don't use it, because it's a complete waste. Once you activate your mecha, you won't get it back when you respawn, so make sure you're saving your super if you're pretty sure that one team or the other is about to score, so that way you can just have your mecha immediately on respawn, and that's going to give you a pretty huge advantage going into that next round of goals. Now in Heist, Meg does best on offense, because she does a really good amount of damage on the safe when she's alone, because you can hit all your bullets easily by auto aiming on the safe with your mecha, and you also have your second super, which can deal a lot of damage on top of that. But also she's just really not that good defensively, because it's hard to hit like throwers around walls with her, and it's really hard to just deal a lot of consistent damage over time, because her attack is a bit slow. So really you just want to focus on playing really offensive and forcing your opponents to defend when you're playing Meg on Heist. And you want to save most of your gadgets for when you actually make it on the safe, because you just want to make sure your mecha stays alive whenever you get on the safe. Because if you lose your mecha on the safe, you then just become kind of useless. You don't really do any damage, and so even if your team has gained a ton of control and you're left on the safe, if you don't have your mecha, then that control is sort of all for nothing, because you're not going to get much damage out of it. So make sure you save your gadgets for when you are on the safe, because that's the most valuable time in Heist when you're playing Meg. In Knockout, there's not too much strategy you can do, except just don't play hyper aggressive, because you really need to be very patient and wait for the poison gas to start coming in. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to win as Meg, since you can't really chase people effectively in the mecha with your slower movement speed, and you can't really hit around walls. But once you're in close quarters, you can auto aim and do a lot of damage. You can hit them with your second super and do a lot of damage. So you really just want to play very patient, wait for them to come to you, or just wait for the poison gas to come in and force them to come to you. In Bounty, the one thing I would do is make sure that you're at full health when you're using your mecha, absolutely full health, because there are a lot of brawlers in that game mode that can very easily 1 or 2 shot you when you fall out of your mecha, like Piper and Brock, even if you have the shield. The shield will definitely help with that in a lot of situations, but it won't save you in every situation, and it's very easy for a lot of opponents to see when you're about to lose your mecha because that health is just ticking down, everyone can see it, so they're going to prepare a lot of their shots and get ready to aim on you right when you lose your mecha, and that's a really easy way to die. So if you're not at very full health, your opponents essentially get a free kill whenever you lose your mecha, so you don't want to let that happen as much as possible. Now in Hot Zone, it's really hard to take over a zone when you're not in your mecha, so you generally just want to play pretty defensively when you don't have that initial super to get your mecha at the beginning of the game. You can do a decent job at pushing people away from the zone, and while doing so, actually charging up your super. And then once you do get your mecha, you can go and play a bit more offensive and try to push people out of the zones, but generally, because of the slow movement speed, it's hard for her to really get to the other zones and do much about it if she ends up losing 1v1 or something like that, so she's usually just the best on the one zone Hot Zone maps, but generally I don't think she's really that good in Hot Zone overall, but those are the tips I would have if you do end up playing her in Hot Zone. In Siege, Meg is actually really good for defending the bot because you have so much health to just tank the bot, and you can heal up a lot of that health back with your gadget, and you just do a ton of damage because you can auto aim all your bullets on top of the bot, and you have your second super to add more damage to that. So like if you're playing Lu or Bell, you really want to make sure you're saving your super for when you have to go on a defense. If you ever see there's even the slightest chance your team's going to go on defense, don't waste your super trying to take control of the center, because you can actually do a decently good job of just picking up bolts and pushing opponents away in Meg's normal form. You don't necessarily need to kill your opponent to get the bolts. I mean, it definitely helps to be in a mecha, but having the mecha for defense is a lot more important in my opinion. There may be some very specific situations where not saving your mecha just to get a couple extra bolts in the center would be good, but generally as a rule of thumb, I would say make sure you're saving your mecha for those defenses when you think it's about to happen. And when you're on offense and you're pushing on your opponent's side, you also want to save your mecha for that as well, because if you don't have your mecha, you're not really doing much on the Ike turret, and you honestly aren't doing that much to maintain control either. So I would recommend saving your mecha for that moment in time, using it, and then using your main attack from far away on the Ike turret. You don't want to get too close to it because it's very hard to get out of the range of the Ike turret once you're very far in it with the slow movement speed that you get from the mecha, and once the mecha stops, you only have 3,000 health, so you're going to get killed really, really quickly. So just stay towards the edge of the range and attack the turret from far away with the main attack of your mecha. And then the last mode is Showdown, and she's really not too great in this mode either because she does such little damage with her base attack without the mecha, and so what you want to do is focus on getting your mecha at the very beginning of the game. It doesn't really matter if you get boxes, you just want to go around and find people to charge your super on. And then eventually once you do that, you'll have your super charged up, and then you start doing a lot of damage to boxes. So at that point, I wouldn't even focus on killing those people, but just then going out and getting the boxes, which is going to be a lot easier because you already take out like half the health of the box just with your second super, and then with like 1 or 2 of your main attacks, you can easily get the power cubes out. And then you want to just stay in that mecha as long as possible, play safe because you're not going to get too many mechas over the course of a Showdown game. So you can definitely use a lot of your gadgets on that first mecha and just try to do a whole game only with that one mecha, or if you think that you're about to die because you're taking a lot of damage, or if there's a lot of people around you, you can just let that first mecha die and then recharge your super again because there's all these people to charge your super on, and then use that second mecha all the way until the end and use all your 3 gadgets to heal up that second mecha. Those are the tips for every single mode. Overall, I would say Meg's best modes are probably Brawl Ball, Siege, Gem Grab, and maybe some one zone, Hot Zone maps as well, though I haven't really experimented too much with her in Hot Zone. And that's it. Get out there and push some trophies.